A serial killer wouldn't be called a serial killer if they didn't have several killings they committed, right? Ted Bundy admitted to 36 crimes, the Boston Strangler to 13, and Jeffrey Dahmer to 17 victims. But have you ever heard of a serial killer with 250 victims? How did the killer do that, you may ask? Well, this serial killer we have right here is even a doctor. Hi, welcome to our channel. Today we are going to explore the dark side of history by talking about one of the most prolific serial killers of all time, Harold Shipman, whose main weapon was neither a gun nor a knife, but medicine. In this video, we will discover what he did to his victims, the possible reason behind his method of killing, and what happened to him afterward. Before we get to know this serial killer doctor, what are your guesses as to how he committed his murders through medicine? Tell us in the comments below. Harold Shipman, whose full name is Harold Frederick Shipman, was born on January 14, 1946, in Nottingham, England. He was a British doctor and serial killer who was responsible for the deaths of approximately 250 of his patients, as determined by an official investigation into his actions. The revelations surrounding Shipman's killings brought forth significant concerns regarding the authority and obligations of the medical establishment in the UK, as well as the effectiveness of protocols for confirming sudden deaths. Let's get to know Shipman in his early years. Shipman came from a working-class background and was raised in Manchester. He displayed great academic promise during his school years and excelled in sports, especially rugby. However, Shipman's life took a different direction when he reached 17 years of age. In that year, his mother, Vera, whom he had a close relationship with, received a diagnosis of lung cancer. As she lay dying in the hospital, Shipman closely observed the doctor's use of morphine to alleviate her pain. It is believed by experts that this particular moment catalyzed his later sadistic killing spree and the way he carried it out. After his mother's passing, Shipman married Primrose May Oxtoby while pursuing his medical studies at Leeds University Medical School. The couple had 4 children together, and on the surface, Shipman's life appeared entirely ordinary. He completed his studies in 1970 and embarked on his career as a junior doctor. He swiftly advanced through the ranks and eventually became a general practitioner at a medical center in West Yorkshire. In 1976, while at this location, Shipman encountered his first encounter with legal issues. The young physician was apprehended for forging prescriptions of Demerol, an opioid commonly prescribed for intense pain relief, for his personal use. Shipman had developed a dependency on the drug. As a consequence, he faced a fine, lost his job, and was mandated to attend a rehabilitation facility situated in York. Harold Shipman managed to swiftly recover and resumed his employment at Donnybrook Medical Center in HYDE in 1977. He spent the subsequent 15 years of his professional journey at this establishment before establishing his solo practice in 1993. During this period, he earned a reputation as an adept and supportive doctor among his patients and within his local community. He was notably recognized for his compassionate approach when interacting with patients. However, unbeknownst to everyone, the upstanding physician was secretly taking the lives of his patients. In March of 1975, Shipman's first patient was Eva LYONS, a 70-year-old woman, coincidentally on the day before her birthday. During this period, Shipman had acquired a significant quantity of diamorphine, capable of ending the lives of numerous individuals, though his addiction remained unknown until the following year. Although he was dismissed from his position that year due to prescription forgery, Shipman was not expelled from the General Medical Council, the governing body for doctors. Instead, he received a cautionary letter. As per investigators, Shipman's killing spree went through several interruptions and restarts over many years. Nevertheless, his method of murder consistently persisted. He would select vulnerable individuals, with his oldest victim being 93-year-old Ann Cooper and his youngest being 41-year-old Peter Lewis. Subsequently, he would administer a fatal dosage of diamorphine, leading to their demise either on the spot or after sending them home to meet their end. What are your thoughts on Shipman's case so far? Should he have been expelled from the General Medical Council when he committed forgery? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. However, in 1998, funeral directors within Shipman's HYDE community grew suspicious about the unusually high number of his patients succumbing to death. The adjacent medical practice additionally observed that the mortality rate among Shipman's patients was almost 10 times greater than their own. They voiced their concerns to the local coroner, prompting the involvement of the Greater Manchester Police. This juncture could have marked the conclusion of Shipman's era of terror, but it didn't transpire as such. The police inquiry failed to carry out even the most fundamental of inquiries, including a check on Shipman's criminal record. Had they consulted the medical board regarding his history, they would have unearthed his previous act of prescription forgery. Cleverly, Shipman had also taken measures to hide his actions by fabricating false illnesses within his victims' records. Consequently, the investigation failed to identify any reasons for alarm, allowing the lethal doctor to continue his spree of killings without restraint. Shipman's criminal activities came to light when he committed a crucial error by attempting to forge the will of one of his victims, Kathleen Grundy, an 81-year-old former mayor of his hometown Hyde. Following the administration of a fatal dose of diamorphine to Grundy, Shipman chose the cremation option on her will to obfuscate any evidence. He then utilized his typewriter to completely exclude her family from the will, directing all possessions solely to himself. Nonetheless, despite Shipman's efforts, Grundy was buried, and her daughter, Angela Woodruff, received notice about the will from local solicitors. Immediately, Woodruff harbored suspicions of foul play and alerted the police. Reflecting on the situation, Woodruff remarked, "The entire situation was beyond belief. The notion that my mother would sign a document leaving everything to her doctor was implausible. The idea that she would sign a document so poorly typed was incomprehensible." Subsequently, in August 1998, Grundy's remains were exhumed, revealing traces of diamorphine in her muscle tissues. As a result, Shipman was taken into custody on September 7th of that same year. In the next 2 months, the remains of an additional 11 victims were excavated. A law enforcement specialist also examined Shipman's clinic computer and ascertained that he had entered fabricated information to corroborate the fictitious causes of death he had listed on his victims' death certificates. Simultaneously, Shipman persisted in asserting that Grundy had an addiction akin to morphine or heroin, using his notes as substantiation. However, the police unearthed evidence indicating that Shipman had composed these notes on his computer after her demise. Subsequently, the police managed to authenticate 14 additional cases in which Shipman had administered deadly doses of diamorphine, falsely registered the patient's demise, and manipulated their medical histories to suggest that their demise was imminent anyway. Harold Shipman consistently denied the killings and declined to collaborate with law enforcement or forensic psychiatrists. Whenever the police attempted to interrogate him or present images of his victims, he responded by closing his eyes, yawning, and rejecting any engagement with the evidence. The authorities managed to formally accuse Shipman of 15 murders, but assessments suggest that the actual number of his victims could range from 250 to 450. In the year 2000, Shipman was sentenced to life imprisonment, with the recommendation that he never be granted release. He was initially held in a prison located in Manchester, but was later transferred to Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, where he took his own life. On January 13, 2004, the day preceding his 58th birthday, Shipman was discovered hanging in his cell. Before his death, Shipman confided in his probation officer about contemplating suicide, expressing his desire for his wife to receive his pension and lump sum. His motivations remained uncertain. Some speculated that Shipman might have been driven by a desire to seek retribution for his mother's passing, while others proposed that he believed he was practicing a form of euthanasia, removing older individuals who could have potentially become burdens on the healthcare system. Another theory suggested that he found pleasure in wielding the authority of life and death as a doctor, using killing as a means to exert this power. Despite his manipulation of the will of one victim, financial gain doesn't seem to have been a major incentive. A critical question that troubled investigators was how such a substantial number of deaths could have occurred without arousing suspicions of foul play. This puzzle was compounded by the fact that Shipman's patients were typically in good health just before their interactions with him. The fact that Shipman exploited the trust his patients had in him as a physician rendered his crimes particularly repugnant to the public. The General Medical Council brought misconduct charges against 6 doctors who had signed cremation forms for Shipman's victims, alleging that they should have detected a pattern between Shipman's home visits and the subsequent deaths of his patients. However, all these doctors were ultimately acquitted of these charges. Primrose Shipman, the widow of Harold Shipman, was called to provide testimony regarding 2 of the deaths during the inquiry. She steadfastly maintained her husband's innocence both before and after the legal proceedings. In October 2005, there was a hearing that resembled a previous event that occurred in 1994, wherein two doctors at Tameside General Hospital didn't realize that Shipman had deliberately administered an excessively large dose of morphine. It was also in 2005 that it came to light that Shipman might have stolen jewelry from his victims. Over 10,000 pounds worth of jewelry was discovered in his garage in 1998. In March 2005, with PRIMROSE Shipman advocating for its return, the police contacted the families of Shipman's victims, asking them to identify the jewelry. In the same year, an investigation into Shipman's suicide concluded that his suicide could not have been foreseen or prevented, but still recommended a reevaluation of procedures. But whatever Shipman's ultimate reason for committing these acts, there is one thing that most people would agree on, and that is that these killings could have been prevented, given that he was a doctor. Do you share the same opinion? Why do you think Shipman committed his murders? Tell us what you think in the comments below. If you learned a lot from this video, don't forget to give it a like, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Thanks for watching.